So there are hundreds of military officials who have flown in from around the world, generals and admirals, as you heard from some of the questions there. And the commander-in-chief is about to address them, Dana. I think another headline in there is when he said, we're waiting for Hamas. This was a big deal that he and Netanyahu put on the table yesterday, and so many Arab nations overnight, they endorsed this deal. And quite literally at the moment, we are waiting on Hamas to give an answer to Trump and Netanyahu.
And Alexandria Hoff is at the White House. She can catch us up before we hear from President Trump any moment. Hi, Alex.
Hi, good to be with you. Yeah, well, Secretary Hegseth's message here today, it really was reiterating President Trump's peace through strength, but he did take it a step further, saying really the Department of Defense is no longer, the Department of War is now. And somebody who was in the room might know better, but it appeared to me Secretary Hegseth was did not have a teleprompter in front of him, that this was off the cuff, this was lengthy, it was almost poetic in its pacing. Now, there's going to be many people who took issue with what he said in these remarks to military leaders today. It wasn't necessarily polite, but that appears to have been the point. He said this is an era where we are done with political correctness, with wokeness, as he refers to often. And with that, he says standards have to be heightened when it comes to preparation, when it comes to equipment, when it comes to physical fitness and appearance.
Program, no reform, no formation will ultimately succeed unless we have the right people and the right culture at the War Department. If I've learned one core lesson in my 8 months in this job, it's that personnel is policy.
And new personnel policy, Secretary Hegseth said, hit the inboxes of the military leadership in attendance. There were 10 new directives that he touched on today. They're centered around combat readiness, a return to merit. Hegseth said a new combat field test is being added, and he said it's not discrimination to mandate that personnel must be in shape, shave, show up on time, or work hard. And for combat physical fitness, he says they will be set at the male standard.
But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I would assume that means that there are many men who will also not meet those standards. And Secretary Hegseth said there is nothing wrong with this kind of conversation that he wants to bring up now. Not even a conversation, a mandate that there has to be gender-neutral attire, that leadership must be apolitical. And he told this crowd here that hundreds all around the country and all the world, any military member who is 1 star and above, that if any of what he says cause their hearts to sink, that maybe they should consider resigning. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Alex, thank you so much. And Joey Jones, of course, a veteran himself, joins us now to give your take as we've just listened to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth on his big speech here in front of this group. And President Trump is going to take the stage any moment. Joey, let's give you those moments in between to tell us what you think.
From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, no one here wants war, but it's because we love peace.
Sorry, Joey, now the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm just so anxious to get on here and talk about this. This is exactly what I've wanted to hear for the better part of a decade since I left the Marine Corps. This is exactly what we need to hear. This idea, I mean, I wrote a whole note of quotes from him. No more men in dresses. We're done with that crap. I mean, to speak plainly to our troop leaders, we haven't seen that in my lifetime. Nothing he said can be shot full of holes. Nothing he said isn't true. It may hurt some feelings, but it's not untrue. It's exactly what we need to hear. We haven't won a war since we started worrying about people's feelings over their effectiveness. I mean, we fought a 20-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I say all the time, we fought it in 2-year increments because every 2 years we held an election and reset the game. This is to pull our military leaders out of that process and tell them to focus inward towards the warfighter, their capabilities, and their readiness. And he called out all the reasons why we've been attacked from the inside when it comes to being capable to fight a war. He quoted E.B. Sledge, and for those of you that don't know, if you watch The Pacific, he's one of the characters there, in his book, With the Old Breed. And invoking E.B. Sledge, we have to talk about the fact that we lost so many men in the Pacific campaigns because of bad hygiene and bad conditions. So from that now, you have to shave your beard, cut your hair, and be in good shape. And we've turned that into some sort of discriminatory policy that for some reason looking good and being in shape and clean is discriminatory. The reporter hit before this said that Pete Hegseth said these things aren't discriminatory. That's not exactly true. He said this is the type of discrimination that is warranted and needed. And that's exactly right. Because if you're not the kind of person that can stay in shape, stay in good hygiene, and be a good leader, they don't want you. You can make it in a free society, but you're not going to make it in our military. There are war fighters all over this world that listen to those words and are cheering as if we just won a war.
Joey, what is the value of, they brought commanders in from all over the world at critical posts at a critical time in world history too, the Middle East, Asia. What's the value of bringing them all together on one location? And knowing that it's never been done this way, maybe, I mean, Dana and I were just talking, maybe you go to them. And maybe that's what he does next. What's the value of this moment and this gathering now?
Who in that room can say they didn't hear him clearly? Who in that room a month from now can say, that's not what I heard when he came to visit me? That's not exactly how the policy, I think, is supposed to be put forth. Rather than playing the telephone game, rather than presenting this message 100 times over so people have more opportunity to kind of finagle their way around it, it was direct, it was in their face, and they heard it together in one room. You can't mince words now. This is the policy, this is the culture, get on board or get the hell out. The value is people staying alive. The value is people like me not losing my legs because a commander somewhere was afraid to do what was necessary to use JDAMs to clear a town of enemy people instead of me on my foot. That's the type of value we're looking for. That's what we've screened for and begged for in this 20-year war. And at least for a moment in time, we have it. I can tell you right now, there are a lot of men in this world, General Mattis is one of them, who have said the right thing in a small room. But for Pete Hegseth to say the right thing on the largest stage possible, you won't see that again. There isn't that much courage in Washington, D.C. right now. That was a big deal.
Joey, he suggested that if any of them aren't on board, that they should resign. Do you think any of them will?
I certainly hope so. I hope any of them that think what he said was offensive or wrong sign their papers, take their fat retirement, go hang their uniform that doesn't fit anymore in a closet, and go give speeches for a living or join some think tank. They can still be of value if they have something to contribute. But if you're not on board with this type of culture, you don't deserve to wear the uniform anymore. I lost my legs in 2010. I can pass the height and weight standard right now. It's not easy. I bleed to do it, but I do it for a reason. I do it to remind myself that anything worthwhile is not easy, that living a long and healthy life isn't lazy. And if you can't set that example when your job is to sit at a desk and drink coffee, then how are you going to set it on the battlefield? And don't think generals don't go to the battlefield. I invoke General Mattis. He is who he was among Marines because of his leadership on the battlefield as a general that fought from Vietnam till Iraq. So these legendary leaders did so on foot, in uniform, in gear, on the battlefield. And to think that we're so far away from that we can sit at a desk and pontificate on, whether or not someone should be able to wear a beard for religious exemption, when the whole point of it is if you can't put a gas mask on, then you're going to die and somebody's got to take care of you. That's not how it works. Pete called all that out, and I appreciate it.
One more thing. I saw General Mattis in action in Kandahar, December of 2001. It was quite impressive. Refused to do any interviews. Said, go talk to the men. Every single time, go talk to the men.
Absolutely.
I've heard Secretary Hegseth in 8 months talk about this warrior ethos 1,000 times. I think it comes out of his mouth every time he's talking. Joey, as a man who's been there, what does that mean? How do you define that? Or was this the definition that he just gave in this speech here today?
The most core principle in leadership you could ever ask for is consistency. To say the same thing in front of cameras and microphones that you said to me behind the wall a few minutes ago. Because then I can predict, and I know what your intent is, and I can predict what the outcome will be. I may vehemently disagree with it, but I can work with that. But if you chameleon and change and kind of snake your way around to make everyone happy, then you've done nothing in the terms of leadership at all. You've only created confusion and distrust. The most important thing Pete Hegseth is doing is standing true to the words he wrote in his book, standing true to the words he said in front of the committee to be confirmed, and standing true to the words he's told individuals for the last 8 months by doing it in front of the world. Now, the next part is you got to put it into motion. There will be lawsuits. There will be op-eds in every publication. Every liberal reporter at the Pentagon is going to come after him. They're going to bring up everything they can. It's going to be just like his confirmation all over again. But he knew that before this morning, and he knows it right now, and he did it anyway, and I believe it's for a reason, and it's not to make him into some folk hero. It's to make us into a capable country that can fight China in the Pacific and drug lords in South America and potentially Russia or Hamas on our other or from our other coast in the Middle East and Europe. That's the type of war or world we live in, and if we can't fight those fights, even all at once, then we don't last. Much less if we can't fight the fight of keeping our own people safe here at home, which is what the president's doing with the National Guard right now. All of that matters.
Joy Jones, great to have you to lead us off today. We await the president's remarks at the Pentagon following the Secretary of War's speech this morning in front of all the generals from around the world all gathered there. Joey, thank you.
Thank you.
Want even more Fox News on YouTube? Become a Fox News Patriot today. Click join to find out how.